Hello viewers! So what the hell is happening with GT7 and Polyphony Digital? It's like they've given up, thrown in the towel. Certainly no love being given to this game these days. At least that's the way it seems. There's no imagination. There's no love. It's getting a little bit ridiculous, and I'm really curious to know what's going on. So I actually did some really serious checking into the daily races of this year, what we've raced where, and in terms of the number of races at each particular venue, the numbers are not terrible, with a couple of definitely notable exceptions. It's a matter of timing. And this is where it seems like Polyphony Digital just doesn't care anymore. They're just like, yeah, minimal effort, boys, just keep the thing running, as long as people are playing, we're fine. For example, Suzuka is absolutely one of the most popular tracks in the world. It has everything you want, it's a good length, it lends itself well to an online daily race. We've had 6 races there this year alone, and that's about right. That's about every 6 weeks or so. That makes sense for a very popular track. One of those notable exceptions would be Interlagos, which is an excellent track. We've seen it twice. Same number of times we've seen Special Stage Route X. There are 39 tracks in this game. 4 of which don't get used. Fair enough, we'll get into that in a second. But of the other 35, don't keep giving us the same tracks. Reverse, it's the same track. Go to a different destination. Give us a different track. Use your imaginations, guys. Every video game studio uses analytics to determine whether something is popular or not. They put out something, and then they see how many people played it. How many people came back to play it. How many people left because of playing it. All of these things then go in to determine what is the next thing they send out, because they all want to keep their games interesting. If you lose players for a week, you may lose them permanently, especially in this industry where sim racing, as huge as it is, Gran Turismo has some very hefty competition. So as I mentioned, there are some tracks in this game that just never get used, and there's a good reason for that. Broadbean. It's a tiny 1.7 kilometer, quote, oval, unquote, with a kink in it. Northern Isle is 2 left turns, quite literally, and the lap is done. It's only 0.9 kilometers, it takes about 12 seconds. That's not the kind of thing that lends itself well to an online race. It'd be great to get a dozen of your friends together, put them in a lobby, turn off all damage, and just go like hell, full wreckfest, and whoever gets over the finish line at the end wins. But it wouldn't work in a daily race. Circuit de Saint-Croix has 3 configurations, and the shortest one is longer than Spa. It's too big. Similarly, we have Fisherman's Ranch. It's a huge dirt track. I mean huge. It takes minutes to get around this thing. And if you're in the middle of your qualifying lap and you make a mistake, you have to start over. It's really easy to make a mistake in a dirt track qualifying lap. It's not fun. It becomes frustrating, and so people don't play it. The analytics that Polyphony Digital would be using would show that. Hey, we tried Fisherman's Ranch and nobody raced it. It's too big, nobody liked dirt, whatever the reasons, less players played it. So there are obviously some tracks that just will not be used, and that's fine, that makes sense. There are still 35 left. 35 individual locations that can be used as race venues. Now, for the most part, they're actually being used about the right amount. As I said, Suzuka's super popular. We've had 6 races there this year. Deep Forest. It's a decent track. We've had 4 races at Deep Forest, and we've had 3 at Deep Forest Reverse. That's not necessarily a bad thing. It is a fairly popular track, and it does work well in the daily races. The problem is the way that it's being done by Polyphony Digital. Last week we had Deep Forest. This week we have Deep Forest Reverse. Last week we had Brands Hatch Indy. This week we have Brands Hatch Grand Prix. I mean, it's like you couldn't figure out what to do for this week, so you looked at last week and decided to just reuse those. Flip them a little bit to make them different, guys. Oh, okay. These are not the actions of a company that is supporting their flagship game. This is not the level of effort and love that I would expect to see from a company like Polyphony Digital into what is now the 8th version of Gran Turismo to come out in the last 25 years. Which is why I'm becoming a little bit concerned as to what's going on with this game. Do they have another thing going on in the background? Do they have some secret project going on and GT7 is just being handled by a skeleton crew? hey, that'd be neat. But no word of that, not even a slip up, so I'm guessing no. And at this point, it just seems like a complete lack of effort into Gran Turismo 7. So now that I've bashed poor Polyphony Digital and their lack of effort into the game, let me offer up some positive stuff, because there is quite a bit of it. They put a huge effort into updating the physics engine of this game. And now that is the underlying aspect of the entire game. The whole thing is racing, and it's all built on their physics. So they sent out this update thinking this is going to be the greatest, wonderfulest thing ever. It's going to make the game so good. You're going to love it. It was rather hit or miss. Some people are saying it was really more realistic and it was a better representation. Some people are saying the direct opposite. Some people barely noticed. The Samba bus certainly noticed. But with this update came a change in how the tires react to going off track. And it was a significantly noticeable change, something that I definitely picked up on right away because I go off track, unfortunately. It happens. Sometimes it's because of my own fault, sometimes I get punted off track, but if you end up going across the gravel in Gran Turismo now, it's going to be a while before you get your traction back. It should take the length of a straight or a couple of corners, honestly, to get the gravel or the grass or whatever off of the rubber and have your grip back. But in GT7, it can take up to a lap and a half, depending on the length of the lap. And it's extremely frustrating because it's not realistic, not even remotely. I've gotten into Assetto Corsa and ACC, and I'll be getting into iRacing, and these games model this very, very well. So coming back to Gran Turismo after playing Assetto Corsa, I go, damn, where'd my grip go? Oh yeah, I touched grass and gravel turned my tires into molten rubber. So this is something I am definitely hoping gets updated and tweaked rather soon, because it's, to me, not right, and it's extremely frustrating, especially for a game that prides itself on being the real driving simulator. Moving on to the subject of updates. Generally speaking, we really can't complain because they're free. I bought the game, I paid for it, and I have never spent another penny on this game since. That's a pretty sweet deal in today's market because a lot of games are going subscription based or they're seasonal and you get your 1 year and then you got to buy it again. Gran Turismo, thankfully, has been the exception to that, and I pray it never changes because it's wonderful to be able to buy a game and continue to play it without having to keep paying to continue to play it. They've given us new cars, new manufacturers, new tracks, new events. They're continuing to evolve the game in that respect, and that's awesome. That says we are putting effort into the game, and we do want our players to be happy. Those that say that we're not getting tracks fast enough, please realize that it takes an enormous amount of effort to create a track in a video game. It's not a couple of weeks, just pound one out. For customizing, the game's not bad. You can tweak the settings of your car to make it handle better and these kinds of things. There's that aspect of it. It's not super detailed, but you can change things and it's not bad. Physical appearance, you have the livery editor, and I know there were some issues with it earlier this year, but I believe those have been handled. It has some weirdnesses. Putting on decals, sometimes you can't stretch them, they'll fold back on themselves. It's got some funny little nuances to it, but it generally does a pretty good job. And I've been able to turn some cars into some pretty sexy beasts using that. So again, it's not great, but it's not bad. I want to talk about something that became very apparent in the last few weeks when an engine blew up during a race. I didn't think this was possible because I didn't think random engine damage, for example, was something that had been programmed into the game. So I did some checking. I had a whole bunch of comments. A whole lot of people are saying, well, you didn't change your oil. But I did. In fact, I had changed the oil right before that race, and anytime the oil reached normal, I made sure to change it so that it was excellent. So when the engine blew, I was thoroughly confused. It turns out that your oil life has absolutely no bearing on the engine life, and neither one of them will contribute to an engine blowing up during a race. They're not linked. They don't actually associate with each other in the game in any way. In other words, it's an extremely shallow aspect of the game where your oil will go from excellent to normal, okay? Go change your oil. If you don't, you're going to have less power. That's it. If your engine becomes worn, go and get your engine overhauled. Otherwise, you're going to have less power. That's it. It doesn't go any deeper than that. Nothing causes anything else to happen. This is something I would love to see get a complete overhaul. If your oil needs to be changed, obviously, it would lower the output of the car. That makes sense. But if you don't change it, it's going to start to affect your engine life. If you do change it then, it'll stop affecting the engine life, but the engine life will then have been decreased. If they get bad enough, one would expect your engine to blow. I think this would be a really cool aspect of the game that would increase the immersion level, because now you got your favorite car. In my case, I have my 3 NSXs that I use regularly, and I've lost count of the number of times I've had to change the oil in those things. I don't want the power going down. Before, I actually thought it had some kind of an effect on the engine, but it doesn't. But it would be really cool if you knew, okay, I got to make sure I'm maintaining my car, because otherwise I risk losing an engine during a race. That'd be kind of cool. Be a good quality of life improvement. And speaking of quality of life, here are a few others that I would love to see. Some of the things that are in this list shouldn't be in this list. Certainly should not still be in this list. Selling parts and engines. I can't believe we still can't. Winning an engine on your daily marathon ticket is kind of a slap in the face, because you can't do anything with it. If you happen to own the car and you happen to drive that car a lot and you happen to want to change the engine in it, okay, great. What if you don't own the car, or you don't drive the car, or you just don't drive it enough to ever need to change the engine? It'd be great if we could sell these for even half of their worth. You know, this is a $30,000 brake part. Okay, well, give me 15,000 credits for it. Let me sell it. Let me get something of use for it, instead of just shoving it in the back of the garage and forgetting about it. So on the same note, we have selling multiple of the same car. There's a medal in this game where you have to buy the same car 10 times. Because that's a thing, I guess. But then when you go to sell the other 9, you have to wait a day between. Why? That doesn't make any sense. And it's just something that just should be changed, so we can just go back into our inventory and go, okay, sell this one, sell this one, sell this one. Okay, I got one left, I'm happy. Setting your tires at the beginning of a race. I can't believe they haven't fixed this. If I go into an online race and I'm wearing medium tires, but I have to be wearing hard tires, I have to change them. That's fine. At the end of the race, the game puts them back, and I have to change them again at the beginning of the next race. If I change the tires at the beginning of a race at 9 o'clock in the morning, because all of the races that day require that they be hard compound tires, I'm not going to flip them back at the end of the race. Leave them the way we set them, please. HUD is also on this list. Being able to change what's on it. Some of the stuff that's there I never use. Some of the stuff that's there I'd rather be in a different spot. I'd love to be able to move that around. That'd be really cool. That'd be a great quality of life improvement. Updating of cars. Group 3 and Group 4 cars in this game are a little outdated and could use a little love. Now on to the subject of race strategy. A sprint race rewards the fastest driver, period. A longer race that requires one pit stop, a change of tires, and fuel is burning at a rate that you may or may not make it to the end, depending on whether you do any fuel management, will reward the fast driver who knows how to strategize. And it changes the entire dynamic of the race. We need more races with mandatory pit stops, not just you have to go into the pit, but why? Are you going to run out of fuel? Your tire's wearing out? Do you have to use 2 different compounds? Give us some choices, give us some options. It makes the racing so much more interesting when you have to think about more than just the brake and the gas. And the final thing I can't take credit for, I read this in, I believe it was a Reddit post, the person had said, hold O to go back to the main menu. And that was absolutely brilliant. There are a lot of menus and a lot of layers to those menus in this game. Time trial, for example. You finish the time trial and you exit. You get to a screen that shows you your fastest lap. Hit X. You go to a screen that shows you all of your laps. Hit X. You go to a screen that shows you the number of miles you've driven. Hit X. It gives you those miles and any monies that you earned. Hit X. You have now the choice to continue. Hit X. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to just hold the O button for 2 seconds, for example, to go back to the main menu of that track for time trial? Or if you're in the daily races, for example, hold O and it takes you back to the screen that shows you the 3 daily races. So much faster than having to navigate so many layers of menus. And that is the end of this video. So to sum up, Gran Turismo 7's not in terrible condition. Generally, it runs really, really well. There's some great aspects to it. There's a lot of it that I absolutely love. But there's some definite quality of life issues that need to be addressed. There's some updates that absolutely need to be brought in. And a whole lot more effort and love from Polyphony Digital on keeping things fresh and fun. Because right now it seems to be bare bones minimum, and it's showing. I would love to know your thoughts on this. Please comment below what you think, whether you agree with me or you disagree with me, or if you have other ideas, or if there's anything you want to expand on. I would love to hear it. In the meantime, thank you so very much for watching. Really appreciate it. Have an absolutely awesome day, and I will catch you next time. Peace.